welcome to the 53rd episode of the Sockmatician podcast. My name is Nathan Taylor, also known as Sockmatician, right here on YouTube, as well as on Ravelry, Instagram and Twitter. And this really is the 53rd episode, not like last time when I billed the 52nd episode as the 53rd. Didn't go so well, did it? Welcome back. Welcome to you if you are new viewers. I'm delighted that you're spending some time with me in my company, and I hope we're going to become lifelong friends, and this will be the start of a beautiful, beautiful relationship. If you are a returning visitor, then it's a joy to have you with me in my living room here in North London, as always, and I hope you've got some knitting on the go. I hope you've got something nice to drink. I hope it's a lovely day where you are, and let's plough in. So I'm just going to crack straight on with the roundup. I don't see there's any point in procrastinating. So it's been a busy time. Since I last spoke to you, I have done lots and lots of teaching. Now this makes me very, very happy. I started off the weekend before last going down to Perth headquarters near Newbury, Leckhampton. I can't remember the name of the little village, near Newbury in Berkshire, with the lovely Sarah, and we had two classes there, both on the same day, so it was a long day of teaching for me, which I never mind. I'm always delighted to be welcoming some brand new double knitters into the world. I say this to people in my classes all the time. I have a quest. My quest is for global domination, one double knitter at a time. I am going to take over the world with it, and my way of putting that into action is to share my knowledge and my experience of double knitting with as many people as I possibly can. That way, there are more people out there spreading the word themselves, wearing beautiful double knitted objects, which people are going to say, "That's beautiful, how did you make it?" They'll say, "It's double knitting." They'll say, "How can I do it?" They'll say, "Go and look at Nathan's tutorials, or take a class, or look at somebody else's books, but just learn how to do it." So if you're watching this and you hear me whittering on about double knitting all the time, and you've never done any, why not take the plunge? Take the plunge. So, down in Pearlescence, we had a wonderful time. Sarah had baked some fantastic cakes. We had a little visit partway through the session. It's a converted farm building, really in the middle of the countryside. It's a beautiful location, and we had the door open because it was quite warm. It's not so warm now. It's only the 12th, 13th, no, it's 14th. What date is it today? I genuinely don't know. I think it's the 14th of September. And it's suddenly gone very, very chilly. But it was a lovely warm day back in Pearlescence, and we had the door open, and this little white dog came trotting in, saying hello, and started making off with people's balls of yarn. So we had no idea who he belonged to, but there was a phone number on the little bone he was sporting on his collar. So I called the number, and it was really interesting because I didn't want to make it sound like there was a problem, so I had to keep my voice very buoyant and say, "Are you the owner of a small, friendly little dog?" rather than, "Do you have a white dog?" Because you know that's going to make someone panic and think there's been a terrible accident and he's squished on the road. Which wasn't the case, thankfully, and it was a lady who lived about a mile down the road. She said, "Oh, has he got out? Oh no, I'm so sorry, I'll be there immediately to come and collect him." So we closed the door and we made a nice fuss of him. He was a very friendly little chap. It brightened up everyone's day, I think. Very successful classes, and 28 new double knitters out in the world. Tick, job done. Then, excuse me, I've had some chocolate biscuits. Then, weekend just gone, was the Perth Festival of Yarn. How exciting! I was approached by Eva Christie, who is the producer and the director of the festival, who asked me at the Edinburgh Festival back in March this year if I would go along and teach. And of course I was delighted to do so. I took another 2 classes, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. I travelled up to Perth on the Friday. The marketplace was only open on the Sunday. Apparently, Eva was telling me that a party of people turned up from Inverness on the Saturday. Now Inverness and Perth are quite some distance away, a couple hundred miles at least, and they could only come down that one day, and there was no marketplace. The festival was only happening on the Sunday. There were, however, some classes. So Eva said, listen, there's a crochet class which is just starting now. If you want to just sort of chip in a fiver towards the materials, you can join the class, so at least your journey hasn't been wasted. I think that was a brilliant solution. They're all quite happy with that, it seems. Not happy with their mistake, I suspect, with all their plans going a little bit awry. Anyway, backtracking, I went up on the train. I had a lovely encounter, actually, on the train. It was very funny. I've been editing some, the footage of my American trip, which is still, honestly, it's a beast. There's about 5 hours of footage which I'm trying to condense down. I can't reasonably put out a 5-hour holiday vid. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I'm trying to whittle it down, so I did some on the train. Then I got my knitting out. And sitting opposite me, on the other side of the aisle, on the table there, was a group of 4 people, 3 of whom were knitting. So it was a train up to Scotland. I was getting off at Perth for the Perth Festival of Yarn. I assumed that's where they were going. One of them leaned over to me and said, I was knitting a sock. She said, I love those colours. I said, thank you very much. I said, I'm assuming you're going to the Perth Festival of Yarn. It turned out they weren't. It was just a complete knitting coincidence, a knitcidence. They happened to be going up to Inverness for a walking holiday, and knew that the festival was happening, but they'd already planned their holiday that same weekend and couldn't change their plans. So in fact, one of them said, "You're Nathan, aren't you?" I said, "Yes." And it turns out that she had been at the retreat I did for Jolie Kelly up in Manchester in February, I think it was. She hadn't taken my class, that's why I didn't recognise her, but she had been there, and I'd given the sort of keynote speech at the beginning of the retreat, so she knew who I was. So it was very, very odd to be on a train. And actually, even though I was going to a yarn festival, this was kind of out of context, because they weren't. This was literally just being sort of spotted in the street, or on a train. It's very peculiar. Very, very odd. I still can't quite get used to it. Anyway, I arrived and put up in the Lovett Hotel. It's a very nice place. Eva was very gracious and came and greeted me from the train station and took me in a taxi to the hotel, so looked after me very well. And then on Saturday, now I'll let you into a little secret. I had a bit of a poorly tummy over the weekend. And so apologies to anybody if they felt I wasn't my usual enthusiastic self. I was trying very hard to cover it up and just sort of plough on regardless, but it was taking its toll a little bit. Saturday morning, I just looked after myself, got up, went to breakfast, and actually went back to bed for a little snooze, and then I went off to my class, and it was lovely, and there were 14 new double knitters in the world, and I'm a very happy man after that, of course. And then on the Saturday night, there was a social event where loads of people got together, and I got to see Aileen. Hello, Aileen. We'd seen a lot of each other, Aileen and I, who was little bush baby on Ravelry. She was down in London a couple of weeks ago for a little holiday break, and we met up at the Knit Night at Loop, and then I saw her at Perth, so it seems like we're seeing each other all the time. It's marvellous. And this is the joy of this podcast, you see, because Aileen and I only know each other through her watching this and chatting on the Ravelry group, and now we've become firm friends IRL. It makes me very happy indeed. So then Sunday, it was Marketplace Day. The Marketplace was open from 11 o'clock to about 5, I think. And it was really, really lovely. The year before, it had just been held at a hotel in a function room with tabletops and a few vendors. Now this time there were 70 vendors in a huge exhibition space at the Jewers Centre in Perth, which incidentally is the home of the International Curling Championships. Random fact. And there were loads of people there. When I arrived, there was a big queue to get in. Thankfully, I had a tutor's pass, so I was able to skip through. Sorry for anybody who may have put their nose out of joint by me just sort of sashaying up to the front of the queue and going in. But I didn't have a great deal of time to spend in the marketplace before I had to go to my own class. So if you'll forgive me, I hope you'll understand. And there were some lovely, lovely people there. I've got a couple of little video clips here which I want to insert so you can get a little flavour of what was going on. Behind me, the Perth Festival of Yarn is now in full swing. It's about 12:15. It's been open for just over an hour, and you can see it's absolutely mobbed. There are over 70 vendors down there, some of whom are very familiar faces to me. There's Estelle from Midwinter Yarns and Jen from Ginger Twist Studios, various other people as well that I've got to know over the last couple of years. But there's also a load of people that I didn't know personally. Some I must have seen at various other places but haven't had the chance to really get to know properly. And some really, really fantastic, beautiful colours. I'm really delighted to get a chance to meet the dyers behind Mothy and the Squid. I haven't had a chance to chat to them yet, but I've been a big fan of their work, and Ripple Craft dye works, and so many. My mama knits. There's so many wonderful, wonderful colours here, and so many fantastic yarns that I can't wait to get stuck in. Behind me you can see the Ripples Crafts stall, which is run by the wonderful Helen, who is somewhere over there in the melee. She's having a busy day. I've just seen a skein of yarn on her stall which I couldn't possibly leave behind, but I'm not going to show it to you just now. That's for later on. I've just had a chance to meet the absolutely delightful Gillian from Mothy and the Squid. It's been a long time coming. I've never seen her stuff in the flesh before, and actually there she is behind me. That's Gillian there. Her yarns are absolutely beautiful, and there's some gorgeous rainbow gradient sets that she's got that I sort of have my eye on. I don't know if the budget will stretch today. I'm supposed to be on a little bit of a restricted diet, but it's such beautiful stuff that I might actually just end up getting a little bit tempted. Who knows? And you know, I really, really enjoyed it. There were lots of people there that I know, and lots of people there that I didn't know, and that was really nice. Particularly, I enjoyed meeting Gillian of Mothy and the Squid. I've been a big fan of her work, as I said on the video, for a long time, and I follow her Instagram. I love her ethos of finding inspiration for her colourways from nature, because nature comes up with the most random and pleasing and fantastic colourways all by itself, it seems, and to be able to put those accurately and translate those accurately into the yarns that Gillian does, I think it's really good stuff. So check out Mothy and the Squid if you haven't done already. And it was so lovely to meet up with people like John Glenn, who is Beardy Cheel from the Beardy Cheel podcast. Hello, John. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. I thought you were joining us for dinner. I didn't realise you were scooting off that evening. It was lovely to see you and Janet. I think it's hilarious that you both bought the same skein of yarn. They circulated separately around the marketplace. They were doing a little show and tell at lunchtime. John said, I bought this, and Janet, well, I bought that too. It amused me no end. They clearly have very similar tastes. Now, one thing that surprised me, it's really kind of freaked me out a bit, in a good way. I was aware that Eva and various other volunteers and vendors were wearing Perth Festival of Yarn t-shirts. What I hadn't realised was on the back, it had the names of everybody who was vending and people who were taking part in the festival, like a tour date t-shirt, like lots of little words. But sort of across the top, in big letters, with names Di Gilpin, she was doing a speech, and Nathan Taylor, Sockmatician. I didn't realise this, but it seems like I was a bit of a headliner at the event, which was thrilling and freaky in equal measure. I don't have a t-shirt to show you, but Eva assures me that she's going to send one to me, so I can keep it as a souvenir. It may be the only time I ever headline a festival, so I'm going to make the most of it and forgive the hubris. It was very bizarre. Anyway, the second class, the second class was a very quiet group. They were very quiet and very focused. And I think from that second group, I've had more people contact me afterwards, privately, through Ravelry, to say, not just thank you for the class, but I really, really love this technique. I want to make this scarf, I'm going to do that. There's one lady, Kirstine, who has already knitted halfway up piano number 1, it seems. She's made incredible progress. Having just made her little heart coaster with me in the session, she's totally flown with it and is doing a brilliant job, so congratulations. And as you know, that gladdens my heart. So then that was really it. After the class, the hall was kicking out. We went for a Chinese meal that night, and then I got on the train and came home, and I've had a couple of days doing various bits and pieces around the house, trying to catch up on some nitty admin. I've been writing up some patterns which are now with Michelle, my tech editor, so with a bit of luck, I just need to get some photographs done. With a bit of luck, they can be out soon. One is the Dragged Across America hat that you saw last time. More about that in a moment. And the other is the pattern for the best self-striping ribbed socks in the world. There's so much humility dripping from every single one of those words. Now, I think you've heard me talk about this on the podcast already, but they are I don't have them to hand, but the bright neon green, yellow, pink and orange socks that I made out of the gobstopper from Easy Knits. And they're ribbed. And I put a lot of thought into the construction of these socks, so that there's a lot of little tips and tricks, expert tips that you might not think about when making socks that will hopefully make your socks that little bit better. Now, these are for the people who, like me, go for the detail and really, really love sort of the nitty-gritty of getting things just perfect and like exactly symmetrical. Some people think, it's a sock, it's going to be on my foot, it's going to be in a shoe, and I'm not really interested in that, but I know there's plenty of you out there that share the same, dare I say, OCD bent as I have, and will be only too happy, I think, to be able to make socks that are just gosh darned perfect. Oh, and even if nobody else ever notices, you'll know when you're wearing them that you've made the best self-striping ribbed socks in the world. So those patterns will be coming soon. And that, essentially, is the roundup. So let's move on to community, shall we? Well, I've already, I would love to give some podcast love, but I can't, I'm afraid. I haven't been... I just haven't had the time for watching podcasts at all recently, but I'm going to move straight on into podcast questions, and I have a few here from the Ravelry group. If you don't know this already, there's a thread on my Ravelry group, which is just Sockmatician on Ravelry, and the thread is called Podcast Questions, and it's anything you want to ask me. It's not knitting tech, really. It's not about that. It's just stuff you want to know about me. And I've got a few questions here. This is from Sam I Am, NYC. You'll remember that I met Sam when I was at Knitty City in New York. Sam was the knitter of his first ever pair of socks in the Twisted Soul knit-along. Crazy fool. Hey Nathan, it's great meeting you in NYC. Thanks for your words of encouragement and your amazing tutorial videos. Well, thank you very much. One quick question. Are there any apps or technology you or other knitters who read the boards use to make knitting easier? I discovered Knit Companion doing the Twisted Soul sock, and it was a lifesaver as it was much easier to read on my iPad. I also have the Stash to Go app, although I haven't used it much. Are there any other apps or technologies that you have discovered that you can't live without? It's an interesting question. No, not really. I don't tend to use anything like that. When I'm designing charts and things, I just do it in a spreadsheet. I've got spreadsheets set up with the right ratio of stitch count to row count, roughly, and I've got a knitting symbols font that I use. I just use numbers on a Mac, that's it. And I often read patterns from my iPad rather than print them out, but I don't use anything that highlights any of the lines or anything. What I tend to do is just position. I always just scroll the page, so the line I'm on is either the first line on the page or it's the last line at the bottom of the page, depending on where on the page it needs to sit. And that's all I do, so I'm sorry I can't be of any help, but if anybody's got any suggestions, head over to the General Chatter thread, contact Sam, he's SamIamNYC, and share your thoughts. Moving on, Alice BC says, hello Nathan, it was lovely to hear about your trip, thank you very much. I'm in North Canada and have only briefly visited the US. Anyway, my question is, where do your lovely enunciated words... Look at that. Messed up talking about lovely enunciation. Anyway, my question is, where do your lovely enunciated word endings come from? Is it from your thespian musical roots, or because it complements your grammar proclivities? From watching you on the tube, it seems to be well ingrained. I ask because I was a competitive scripture reader for a few years in primary school, and I was always losing points for under-enunciating the ends of my words. I think it's due to my shy and retiring nature, or possibly so. Not something you seem to struggle with. Clearly not. Thanks and happy knitting, Alice. Well, yes, it's absolutely my acting training, and it's something that I'm passionate about. When I'm teaching acting through song, or if I've been working on presentation skills with anybody, which I've sometimes done for the corporate world, one of the things that I'm always talking about is keeping the energy of the voice going through right to the very end of the phrase and beyond. So you've got to sort of think that if I'm going to say, there was an old woman who lived in a shoe, that died towards the end. If I think about just going towards the end of the phrase, there was an old woman who lived in a shoe, it still doesn't really go there. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. So I've sort of pushed that energy a little bit beyond the end of the phrase, and it's vital for theatre if you want things to be heard. In terms of crisp endings, I've worked quite hard on the articulation muscles and generators in my mouth, so my lips, my tongue, either the tip of the tongue or the blade of the tongue, or further back as well on the ridge. So there's lots of things that I've done to make that so, and it is well ingrained. It was drilled into us at drama college, and it's just a vital skill for what I do. What my job is to be a communicator, and if people can't hear what I'm saying or make out the words that I'm intending to say, then I'm not doing my job of communicating, be that text, be that information, be that singing, it doesn't matter. My job is to communicate. So yes, very much so. And it leads me on to another thing. I have a particular hatred of devoicing voiceless sounds at the ends of words. Now, what does that mean? Now, there in phonetics, there are voiced sounds and there are voiceless sounds. And for example, the S sound is voiceless. The larynx is not working at all. It's just the friction of the air passing over the tip of the tongue and through the teeth. That is a voiceless sound. You can create exactly the same mouth shapes and push the voice through it, engaging the larynx and making sure the vocal cords are working and creating sound, phonating, and with exactly the same mouth structure, and you get zzz, which is a Z sound, or a Z if you're in North America. So there's S and Z, and they are the same, but one is voiced and one is voiceless. Does that make sense? The big culprit, I find, when people devoice voiced sounds at the ends of words is a D sound. People turn it into a T sound. Now D is the voiced version of T, and T is the voiceless version of D. You may not have thought about these things before, but if you think about what your tongue is doing, it's exactly the same in both cases. It's just with the D. You keep the voice. I'm touching my larynx here because you can feel the vibrations. Actually, voice and no voice. So quick phonetics 101. But what people tend to do is words that end in a D sound will become a T, and it really drives me mad. People say, it really drives me mad. Or, what's this? It's my hand. It's not my hand. It's my hand. It's a grand hand, and I'm proud of my hand being grand. There's no splash in a D. It just drives me mad when I hear it in people singing all the time. It's something I don't think drama colleges are putting into place with students anymore. Young students, you hear them all the time singing. I can't think of a word now. I can't think of a song that hasn't. But you'll find these sounds all the time. You hear these like splashing T's where there shouldn't be any, and it drives me to distraction. So yeah, it's something I care about quite passionately. Anyway, enough about that. Mrs. Comet Hunter says, "Hi Nathan, love all the Stash Enhancements from your amazing trip." Well, me too. So if you're an eclipse chaser, there's every chance. There will be one in 2024 that will have totality in southwestern Ontario, near Toronto, and about an hour from my home. If you will you please do the same trip but a Canadian version? Fly to Vancouver and drive east. I'm intimately connected to the astronomy community and can hook you up. Well, do you know what? Nothing would give me greater pleasure. I've never been to Canada and I really would like to go. I don't see it happening, I'm afraid. It might take me that long to save up for it. The the last one pretty much broke the bank. Yeah, it would be wonderful, and I hope you enjoy it. I think I'd said this last time, but the 2024 eclipse is actually going to cross over the exact spot I was in a few weeks ago for this last one. It's really odd that the same place is getting totality twice in 7 years, but it's loads of us who say, "I'll see you here in 7 years, we're back at the same place." It's an idyllic spot, so I can highly recommend it. Sunny RB. Now I love this. As this is my first post here and in Ravelry, your very, very first post in Ravelry ever, that's amazing, coming my way, love it. I must begin with hello from Toronto, Canada. It's all about Canada today. And I would also like to thank you, Nathan, for doing the podcast. Thank you very much. It's great fun to watch and learn, binge watching as we speak, apologies. And I'm absolutely planning to try DK, as you should. Now to my question, post haste. As I'm also new to knitting podcasts in general, maybe I missed it, but so far all references to project bags are of the sewn variety. This has made me wonder, since the craft is knitting, why isn't anyone knitting project bags? Well, I think the obvious answer to that is that knitted fabric lets things through it. So you'd probably have to line the bag anyway. Although I do know that my dear friend John, Beardy Shield, was sporting a knitting bag. I assume he'd lined it. John, maybe you can shed light on that. So it needs to line it, so it needs sewing anyway. So just, I don't know. So all of you project bag makers out there, do you think there would be a market for a knitted knitting bag? And if so, get in touch with Sunny RB. Maybe she's angling for one. Enabling. So there we are. I'm going to move on now. I'm not going to do any of the usual stuff of grammar rants, although I've just done that really with my voiceless stuff. And what's tats today. I'm not doing it because I want to keep this as short as I can, because I've come back from Perth with a little bit of a stash haul. I didn't anticipate this. I was only going to buy a couple of things, and I did. Well, actually, I bought 3 things, which was more than I intended to. But I've been given some lovely things, and part of that is a stash haul that was in a goodie bag. Here's my goodie bag. Let me show you. Perth Festival of Yarn 2017, very, very nice indeed. And inside, there's all sorts of things. I was given this printed pattern for, it's a build hat or beret, contrasting band, by Titi Parisienne, and it looks like that. Very nice indeed. Thank you. I may get around to making that one day. Lots of things in here. There's Beverly Dot of Fair City Knits has got a new Autumn Leaves Tam O'Shanter hat pattern that looks like that. Very pretty indeed. And there's a code to download a version of that, which I may well do if I get the time, which would be lovely. Woo Sheeps have included some little stitch markers, which are little licorice all sorts, I think. Very nice, very handy. Thank you very much for those. Hang on, I'm just going to upend the bag. It's really easier than delving in. See what's in there. A few bits and pieces. There's a little badge from, it says hashtag WGLY yarn, which might be wiggly yarn. Not entirely sure what that's about, but it's kind of cute. And some buttons. Now these come from the Border Tart, whose website is tartsart.co.uk, and there's 10 little wooden buttons there, which are sort of very 70s child's cardigan, I think, and very charming for that. Then there's some yarn. Now this little bag here with a sheep stamped on it is from Di Gilpin. There's some charts there for making Gansey squares, and Di's card here, Di Gilpin, digilpin.com, and lovely ball of Di Gilpin Laaland 100% Scottish lamb's wool. It's a really beautiful colour. It's a very unusual ply. It seems to have been plied, 2-ply, and then 2 lots of that plied together. So it's got a sort of double plying going on. I don't know if there's no way I'll be able to sort of show you that on camera really, but it's a beautiful colour. It's a little bit rich. Actually, do you know, on screen it's showing up as probably more vibrant. It's a little bit softer than that in actual life, and it is very soft. There's no way that Ben could touch this, but I think it's gorgeous. I think that's really, really lovely, and I've not knitted with Laaland before, so this is the colourway is called Amethyst. I'm really looking forward to getting something on the needles with that. Don't know what it will be yet, but I like the colour a lot. Also in the bag were 2 little mini skeins from Caledonia Dye Works, Sutherland self-striping sock yarn. This seems to be from a lady called Tanya. And these are lots of fun. I don't know what I'll do with these. These are the little pops of colour in something. I might put a stripe around the top of a sock or something like that, or do a toe. I don't know. I like this one particularly. The yellows, grey. Is it 2 greys? It's a sort of it's a greyish navy actually, and a very pale grey there, and the yellow I like that. And then there's this bright orange. It's not particularly neon, but it's very bright orange with the pale grey shot through that. Very nice indeed. It's quite soft. I don't know what that is, but I like it a lot. So that's going back in the Caledonia Dye Works. That's not all. I mean, it goes on. I was also given this from 100% pure Scottish alpaca DK yarn from Largham Felt Studio, and look at this. Now most people are aware that I love alpaca. I love everything about it. I love the feel of it. I love how it works up when you're working through your fingers. This is 100% pure Scottish alpaca, and it's grown, processed and spun in Scotland, a natural undyed toffee colour yarn from Hugo. So that is the colour that Hugo is. Alpacas come in a fabulous array of natural colours, and all the colours work so well together. You can't get natural colours that clash with each other. Just all looks gorgeous. There's 50 grams of that, it's about 80 metres. It's the sort of amount I'm going to struggle to find something to do with, but I've got other bits of alpaca, so I might actually put lots of bits together into sort of a scrappy shawl of some kind at some point. Very nice indeed. Then, this is... Who's this from? This is from Shorelines and Strata, TJ Frog. And TJ Frog Dorset Buttons is their website, no, it's their hashtag, but the tjfrog.co.uk. And this is very lovely indeed. This is called Limestone. This is the colour, I guess. It's 100% wool. It's Poll Dorset and Hebridean, sourced from Dorset in the Isle of Skye. It's a DK weight, 220 metres, and it's really bouncy. It's got a firmness to it, the sort of the bounce that I really like in a BFL, but probably taken on a little bit further. It's got a bit of character to it, but I don't mind that at all. I'd be quite happy to wear that around my neck. I may not want to make it into a hat, but I could certainly make that into a little kerchief style cowly thing. And it's a beautiful colour. I'm assuming that's just the grey is coming from the dark of the Hebridean, mixed in with whatever the Poll Dorset colours natural fibre is. I basically run out of things to say about that, but it's really, really, really nice. Those sentences dried up quite embarrassingly. That's gorgeous. I really, really like that. And then there was also one other thing in it. Now, I'm not going to show this yet. I'm going to leave it till later on in the section because there's quite a fun coincidence in it. So, moving on to things that I did buy. Oh no, before that, Kirstine, who is making such good progress with piano number 1, when at the end of the class, she presented me with a skein of yarn. She says she's been experimenting with dyeing, and she's given me one of her experiments, and I think it's really, really lovely. The base is, excuse me, 75-25 merino nylon, and it's a fingering weight yarn, so it's perfect for me as a pair of socks. Sunset Carrara Sound is the name of the colourway, and that's apparently a stretch of water nearby where she lives. But look at this. Isn't that interesting? I really, really like this. I love the sort of splashy, messy watercolour feel to it. There's a real vibrancy to the way the colours have taken on the yarn. And you've got this very, very bright pink. And then we've got this wonderful turquoise here, and they blend into each other in these sort of purple sections. And then we've got this dark, greyish, brownish black. It's lovely. It's really gorgeous. I haven't actually unwound the skein yet, so let me have a little look and see what it's like. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? It's industrial in a weird sort of way. I like the colours. They're so vibrant, but again so messy. And that, I don't mean that I genuinely don't mean that in a criticism way at all. I think that's absolutely what I love about it. I think it's gorgeous, and it's a real privilege, Kirstine. Thank you to have one of your first experiments. So thank you so much for bringing that along for me. I'm really, really going to enjoy making something of that. It might actually not be a sock because the yarn is really, really soft and lovely. So I might actually make something a little bit, something for my head perhaps, or my neck. Put that back into the skein. There, beautiful. So that was that. And then let's get on to the purchases that I made. With America and this, it's time to buy another tub for my stash. I've got 3 big plastic tubs, and I keep saying I don't want any more than that. I'm aware there's a lot of wool and yarn around the house, around my bedroom, stuff that's not in the tub. It's time for a 4th tub, isn't it? But then if I buy a 4th tub, I'm only going to fill it and then buy a 5th. I don't want that. I need to start knitting. My problem, ladies and gentlemen, is that recently I haven't had a great deal of time for actual knitting. Anyway, I went to Ripples Crafts hand-dyed sock yarn stall. ripplescrafts.com is their website. And I couldn't leave this on the shelf. I really, really couldn't. I mean, I am the man who has his own personal colourway on his arm. Purples, blues, lime green, dark green. I mean, pretty much made for me, wasn't it? It's lovely. This is 100%, no, sorry, 75% wool, 25% nylon. I don't think it's a merino. It feels a little bit firmer than that. It's going to be a very useful sock yarn, I think. But the colours are so gorgeous. Look at this section here, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And then the purples, and then the blues. It's essentially everything I've got going on my arm. Just clearly, I'm going to, whatever I make with it, I'm going to have to make in this bag from lovely Amy in New York. Look at that. It's all about me. Oh, the narcissistic actor plays again. No, this is absolutely gorgeous. What does it say here? So this is called Ascent Storms as a colourway, so it's unrepeatable. So I'm glad to have one before they all disappeared. I saw it on the store and I thought, should I? I kept going back, I kept walking past, and it just kept winking at me, so I thought it's definitely coming home with me. Then I went to see Sheila at the Dye Ninja stall. Now, I've met Sheila before, we've chatted in the past, and she has some very, very fine colours indeed. And she has this is 100% fine merino wool, so I don't know if I want to make socks out of this, but it's gorgeous. Are you ready? It's called Marigolds, and it looks like this. Wow! Isn't that spectacular? So many different shades of orange and yellow and red in there. It's absolutely beautiful. There's Sheila's logo, Dye Ninja, your yarn fix. And yeah, this is 365 meters, so it's not got the yardage of some of the lighter fingering weight, even though it doesn't feel like particularly thick yarn. I don't know, but it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And this is the coincidence. This is the coincidence. I was talking to Eva when she gave me my goodie bag at the end of the Chinese meal. Actually, so the last thing I did, basically, she gave me the goodie bag with everything in it, and she was saying that different vendors had donated different things to put in different people's goodie bags, and it was just got sort of spread out. So not all of our stuff was the same, but apparently Sheila had said to Eva, "Are you doing a bag for Nathan? Can you make sure he gets this?" It's not the same. This is a solid orange. The orange is fabulous. I really, really love it. It's do you know what? The phone is blowing out so much it looks like it's got yellow on it, that it hasn't at all. No, it really no. It's not gonna show up. But there's no yellow on it. It's just this vibrant, almost neon orange. And looking at the two of those together, oh. When Sheila put this, or wanted this to put in the bag, there's no way she could have known that that was the one I was going to buy from her that very morning. Oh, it just made me laugh when I pulled out the bag. So actually it's exactly the same yarn, just two different colourways, but I think I might be able to get away with putting them together in the same project. Maybe a shawl with different layers, some solid and some the variegated oranges. The melting pot of my mind is busily ticking over, seeing what I could do with these gorgeous yarns, because they work as a pair, don't they? I made one other purchase. I haven't taken it out of the bag, and I'm not going to because it looks so lovely in the bag. And this was from Gillian, Mothy and the Squid. I've seen these mini sets on her website before and thoroughly loved them, and they're such good value. Oh, really? More rainbow yarn, Nathan? Honestly? Well, yes, I can't help myself. I have a bit of a problem. I'm going to get myself sorted out. I'm not. It's a harmless problem. But isn't this just gorgeous? So there are 10, count them, different colours here. Just beautiful. And they are, I don't even know what the yarn is. I didn't care. I just like them so much. And there's 200 grams of fingering weight yarn here, so that's 2 full skeins really. I think they're 20 grams each. They must be 20 grams each, which is quite generous. And this was only £34, so £17 per 100 grams. I think that's not bad at all, particularly when you think of the work that goes into dyeing and creating. The colours are so solid and so saturated. Gillian, they are wonderful. So I haven't yet decided what I'll do with those. I would quite like to I'd quite like to use them all in the same project, but they are so lovely. They might work well as little pops of colour individually. We'll see. I would like to come up with some sort of design that really shows off the majesty of what colour can do, and proper rainbows like that. I love them. So I've done, all in all, I've done rather well. I think I probably need to be on a bit of a yarn diet, certainly in terms of buying things. I've got so much yarn at the moment, I don't need to be buying anymore. And I know it's not about need, and I know it's all about enabling, and it's about what makes you happy. But actually, I just want to knit it. I want to knit what I've got. I've got some beautiful things on the top of my wardrobe, in my 3 big tubs, and dotted around the rest of the room and the rest of the house. And I really want to enjoy knitting those and not feel that they're just going into a storage where they're not going to get seen for several years. So I'm not in any great hurry to add more to the coffers. Before I move on, I was given some yarn for you guys. Now, one of the people I met was the lovely Liz from Trelise Dyeing, and Liz lives in Athens in Greece, and she again has a great sensibility for bright neon-y type colours, and she had actually contacted me earlier this year. I didn't know this because I didn't get the notification from Instagram. She went into my Instagram account and found it. I was like, look, there's my message. I was like, how did you do that? So anyway, when we were together, we met up at the hotel. We spent quite a lot of time together. We were staying there together. We walked in and out of to the venue together, and we went for dinner together, things like that. She's utterly delightful, ridiculously pretty, honestly, beautiful, and so much fun to be around. And Liz's catchphrase is "colour is power," and I think she's absolutely right. Well, she has given me this skein of yarn to give away to one lucky watcher of the podcast, Trelise, and it's orange and pink, and it's got some green speckles, and it's also shot through with gold stellina, so it's a sparkly one. Hashtag colour is power. Trelise.eu is her website. On Facebook she's just Trelise, and Instagram is Trelise_colour is power. So Liz has some fabulous colours, so have a look at it. Have a look at her website. Some of the colourway names are a little bit naughty. That's whet your appetite, hasn't it? I'm not going to tell you what they are. I think I'm going to leave that for you to find out for yourselves. This is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon and 5% gold stellina, 400 meters, so it's fairly standard sock length, and I think this is going to be gorgeous. So the giveaway question, I'll open a thread on my Ravelry group for this. The giveaway question is going to be this. Liz's catchphrase is "colour is power." I want you to just give an example of how that phrase can have a real world context. What's he talking about? Well, tell me a story where the colour of something really mattered, where something became more powerful because of the colours it was in. Tell me some kind of story, or even something hypothetical, where you imagine a scenario where something like that could take place. Colour is power. What does it suggest to you? And I will leave that open for a couple of weeks, and the lucky winner will have this gorgeous yarn coming their way. So thank you, Liz. It was a delight to meet you. There's, colour is power. And I look forward to being able to share your yarn with one lucky winner very soon. That's the stash enhancement. Good Lord. Now let's move on to whips. There's only one whip really that's had any love, and it's not had a great deal of love. It's a sock that you've all seen before. Or have you? I can't remember. I think you have. It's a Zalba ball sock. I'm just making a very standard sock. Now, to be honest, I haven't really been enjoying this sock. I don't know what it is. I like the colours. I like the way the yarn in a Zalba ball barber poles, almost like a hand spun. I like the way they ply things like that. I like the way the colours work up together. But this sock hasn't. It's not because I'm bored with vanilla socks. It's really not. I mean, there's times when a vanilla sock will fly off the needles, and this just hasn't been one of them. I think I haven't had a great deal of time for knitting anyway, and it's felt that I haven't wanted to put my time into this sock. I don't know why. It's a lovely sock. I can't explain it. So the reason I'm doing it now is just to make sure that something gets done on this poor sock, because it kind of needs some attention. So this is basically all I've been working on. I haven't been working on my double knitted scarf, which pains me, and I've got some commission knitting on the go for some sock patterns for a magazine, which I really need to break the back of. One of the patterns is really complex, and it sort of caused me a few mathematical headaches. So I've been avoiding that one, but next week I will get back to that. And that's my whip, and that's done. There is only one more thing to share with you. This is going to be around about an hour, this episode. I don't know how I've managed that. I have reknitted the Dragged Across America hat. I showed it to you last time in the Misty Alpaca colourway. Now this was the hat, some of you will remember, that Ben challenged me to design a hat that I could cast on in San Francisco at the beginning of our road trip and cast off in New York, having knit it along the way. So the hat really has been dragged across America. I made it in the gorgeous Bollywood colourway from the Misty Alpaca and the chunky yarn in the 100% baby alpaca. It's just a delight to work with, and so soft and warm and gorgeous. But because there's quite a lot of lace and shaping and texture in the hat itself, the colours were so busy that it broke all of that up. And although I like the hat, it doesn't really do the pattern justice, certainly not for photographing it for releasing it as a pattern, which I plan to do. So, when I was at Loop last Thursday for our knit night, I went on the prowl for some chunky yarn that I could use instead in a plainer colour, and I found Quince & Co.'s Puffin chunky yarn. Now it's interesting because it's a single, it's a chunky but it's a single. Now I don't often knit with singles, I don't really like knitting with singles. I find them kind of a bit of a bind to work with, and it's just all fibres everywhere. And however, it feels lovely, and the finished object is great. It's done in a very sort of medium sort of slate grey. It feels like a stormy sky. I can't remember what the colourway is called. Do I have it to hand? I don't think I do. No, I don't. So I can't show that anyway. But it's this, and this is the hat. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of interest in the hat. In fact, someone on Instagram said, "At last, a chunky hat with a bit of interest." Well, I'm glad, because that's exactly what I wanted. So on one of the sides, we've got this enormous leaf shape, and it's repeated on the other side. Both of the halves of the hat are the same. This rest of the texture is open work. It's you can't really see that, but it's a lace texture. Yeah, you can see my hand showing through there, and all of the decreased lines work their way towards these sort of central spines that go up either the front and back of the hat or the side to side of the hat. You can decide whether you want to have the leaf on your forehead or on the sides of your head. It doesn't matter to me at all, whatever you prefer. And I'm quite pleased with the way the crown has come together. There's something very pleasing about the lines in this hat. I love the way that the leaf shape sort of pushes them out the way, and then when the leaf starts to narrow again, the lines mould their way round seamlessly. Now, I made a few amendments to this hat in the second knitting of it. I've gone for a slightly deeper brim than before. It was a little bit like just over half of what's there at the moment, and I've done a different shenanigan at the beginning of the leaf shape. Now, before, I had this crazy thing where I was sort of binding off almost, sort of passing stitches over the top of each other to decrease, to then make a double increase, and it didn't look quite right. It had these like horizontal bars on it. It worked, but aesthetically I wasn't too happy with it. So what I've done is I've come up with another way of doing a double. Now this is kind of weird. What I needed was the effect of a double increase, so 1 stitch into 3, but I didn't want to affect the stitch count. So yes, you could say, well, just do a decrease either side of it. Well, if I had done that, I would have eaten into these lines of yarn overs, and I didn't want to disrupt that. So I needed to find a way of decreasing 2 stitches and creating 2 stitches at the same time. I'm sure this is not a new concept to all you lace knitters out there. I don't knit lace very often, so I don't know this stuff, so I've kind of had to engineer it myself. And it's worked very, very well. Let me show you what I mean. So here is the base. Let me try and show you on the other side. Yeah, this is probably a bit clearer. Here's the base of the leaf pattern, and you can see this line of stitches goes up and then just becomes 3 stitches to go out to the bottom. It's a really, really smooth transition. It works very, very well. It's like a combination of a centre double decrease and a knit one yarn over knit one, kyok. And it works very well, and it's very simple to do. So that's how I've amended that. And yeah, I like the way the crown all comes together. It's lovely. So there was a debate about this hat last time. I was saying I didn't think it was particularly masculine. Certainly in the grey, I can absolutely get away with this. It's unusual, I think, for a lacy hat to be a man's hat. However, I think I can pull it off. How's about that then? I think that's like the perfect shape and size for my head, and it looks like this. So you can see I've got the leaf there, but I've got these sort of lines sweeping across. Fits nicely over my ears. I'm really very happy with it. I will definitely wear this hat, particularly as I've got no hair this winter for the first time in a long time. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're looking like. Can you see the top of my head? I can't see if you can see that, but yeah, I'm really very, very happy with it, and I think it's a fun pattern. If you wanted to wear it the other way round, with the lines coming inwards there and the leaves on the side of the head, it works just as well. So I'm not going to specify whether it should be one way round or the other. I'm incredibly happy with it, and it's really warm and cozy, but it's not going to bake your head, because I think the holes in it will allow your head to breathe as well, which is nice. I think it's an interesting texture, and I think it's interesting because it's chunky, you can get away with the lace not being too feminine, I think. So actually, it works quite well as a guy hat. I've often said that lace isn't for me. Maybe reappraising that notion. What do we think? What do we think? Is this a guy hat? Is it unisex hat? Or is it just for the girls? What do we think? I'll leave you pondering that. And I've got nothing else to say. So I'm going to sign off and keep this one short. I've got a lot of things going on. Tomorrow I'm flying off to the Republic of Ireland to teach at the Atlantic Knitscape retreat. I've never been to the Republic of Ireland before. I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. I can't wait to experience the Atlantic coast on the west coast of Ireland there in County Mayo. And to anybody who is going to be there as well, I'll see you over the weekend. Have a lovely retreat. Everybody else, happy knitting. I will be back in a week or so's time, maybe just over a week, because I've got a busy week next week as well, with another podcast episode. And while this podcast episode very much is a finished object, remember, life is a work in progress. Just take it one stitch at a time, lacy or otherwise. Bye-bye.